Welcome to the Fatherhood Fitness Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Pluff. Each week, we will cover various topics that dads struggle with in their fitness journey. I'll give you actionable steps that you can apply right away, not only to take back control of your own health, but so you're able to be a better example for your kids too.
There's a quote from Robin Sharma that I've always really liked, and I think I talked about it at one point on the show before, but he says your days are your life in miniature. And this is something that's always kind of on my mind. He wrote the book called The 5 A.M. Club. He wrote The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, Who Will Cry When You Die. Lots of really thought-provoking books that I really enjoy. And so he's the quote kind of makes me think. And so I'm big on habits. I'm big on what you do today affects tomorrow. What you do this week is going to affect next week. And so everything we do obviously affects something else. And it doesn't just affect us. We're dads, right? It's not just going to affect who we are. It's going to affect our spouse. It's going to affect our kids. It could affect maybe when we're in a leadership position at work, it's going to affect those who work under us and things like that. And obviously, like on paper, this is super simple, right? It's like, yeah, obviously, like if I do today every single day, if I didn't do what I wanted to, obviously it's not going to end up where I want it, where I want to go. And so that's why I really like, because it makes me think. Because the day sometimes I think, like when we do like goal setting, if we go too far, like we do the 10-year goal, we do a 15-year goal, sometimes it's just not as motivating, and it's hard to keep that perspective because it's just so far down the road. We assume that the older we are, the more wiser we are, the better we're going to get, but that's only true if we let it. And so for me, I know instead of having just a 10-year goal, I got to break that down to a 5-year goal, and then to a 3-year goal, and then to a 1-year goal, and then what can I do in the next 6 months? Then what can I do this quarter? What can I do this month? What can I do this week? And so I keep having to, break it down further than what can I do today. And so that's why I like this, because this is the exact opposite of that, right? If we want to get to the 10-year goal, if we want to get to that 15, 20-year goal, we have to start with today. And if we just think back to, how this day has gone so far, or yesterday, and it's like, if you repeated that every single day this week, how would your week have gone? For some of you, it would have gone really well, and you're like, yeah, if I can repeat today, tomorrow, and then the next day, now we got a week of this, now we got a month of this, and now we got a quarter of this, and all of a sudden it's a year of this. That's a really good year. But unfortunately, that's not the case for a lot of people, and unfortunately, that's not the case for a lot of you listening to this episode. And I want to challenge you to kind of think about that. Maybe write that on a sticky note. I know for me, I need reminders. I don't need a lot of new information. I need a whole lot of reminders. And, if we think of, today as our life in miniature, it is what we did today, is what we're doing currently, leading us to where we want to end up, right? We have kids. We want our kids. I always think, we're, our grandparents did the best they did. Our dads did the best they did. We're going to do even better for our kid. We're just getting better and better and better. But that's not always the case, right? But we have that opportunity to do that. And so I'm real big on, the sticky note system. I've come up with lots of elaborate systems over the years, and I revert back to sticky notes every single time because it's something that I can see. I feel accomplished when I grab it off my computer screen, put it down. I can look at the end of the day. I have all these things checked off. And so for me, that works really well. It might not be the most efficient, but it works for me. And I know if I can just get done what's on my list, I plan the night before, I get everything, all my sticky notes out there, and then I just knock those off, I have a really good day. And then if I do that, every day that week, then I have a really good week. And then I stack that week to the next, I have a really good month. And then I can have a really good quarter. And so then, I'm just continuing to build off this. And then I look back and it's like, man, I've been doing this consistently. I've been doing that consistently. I'm feeling really good right now. And it all happened, from what I did daily, right? And then there's the quote. If you look at motivational speakers, things like that. They always talk about like winning the day, and it's sometimes that can be helpful, sometimes it can't. A lot of people kind of bash on motivation, where they're like, oh, well, we want discipline, we don't want motivation. Like, that's great. Yes, I want you to be disciplined, but I need motivation too. And sometimes you got to listen to motivational things. Sometimes you got to read motivational things, right? If you're in a slump, you're not feeling real good, check your inputs. Like, what are you listening to? What are you watching? Who are you surrounding yourself with, right? If you look back to the most productive times of your life, you look back to the times where you thought, things were going really well, there's a good chance, that everything that you were reading or you're listening to, or the people you're surrounded yourself with, were on the path that you wanted to be as well. And so if we think of our days and we think of our weeks as our life in miniature, I think for dads, this is incredibly important. And I know it's easier said than done, but the thing that gets me is, so my kids are very young. They're 6, 4, and 2, about to be 6, 5, and 3, and then we have another one on the way here. And so I know for me, like, time goes fast. Like, it just flies by. And I think of some like different projects, things I've been trying to get better at, and things I've been trying to improve. And the other day it kind of hit me, because I was looking about when I did this and when I did that, and when I enrolled in this program, or I was working with this mentor or something like this. And that's like most of my kids' life, which is wild. And for my youngest, that's their entire life. And that's kind of crazy to me, because there's things that I still don't have down. I haven't given it enough time and attention that needs to. That should have been resolved years ago, and I was slacking on it, right? I was pushing it off until later, right? But that's what happens with our health. That's what happens with our fitness. I've had multiple calls with people who tell me, I've been struggling with, this for years. And I always ask, when you say years, is this, have you been struggling for a couple years, 3 years, 5? And they're like, oh, probably closer to 5 years. And I said, okay, well, how old are your kids? And they're like, well, they're 7, they're 4, and they're 1. Okay, so like, you've been struggling with getting enough energy. You've been struggling with wanting to, go to the park with them, but you're so exhausted after you get home from work, and you just want to sit on your phone and scroll on the couch, while they're playing outside in the backyard. You've been struggling with that for their entire life, and you're still going to try and figure it out on your own. You're still going to, you're going to jump on this next, health and fitness bandwagon. You're going to jump in a cold plunge, but you won't sit back and, just actually look at like what you're eating, and go for a walk, and do all these things that could easily, significantly improve your life. A lot of times, that's what I do with my clients. It's like, you can ask any one of my clients that I've worked with. I make it as simple as possible. And the reason I do that is because I want you to stick to it. I want you to actually do it. I don't want it to be hard. I don't want you to have to, jump through hoops and have a 10-point checklist every single day to do, just to get through, just to get to where you want to be, because it's not sustainable, because you've done that. You've tried 10 different diets. My goal for my program is for it to be the last program you ever do. I want you to learn the principles. I want you to practice the principles, and I want you to repeat that forever. And once you've got that down, you can tweak it. You can do other things as well. But the basics always work. Going for walks, getting enough protein in, strength training 2 to 3 times a week. These are the foundation. Getting 6 to 8 hours of sleep a night. If you're not doing these things, nothing else matters. It doesn't matter what supplement you buy. It doesn't matter what else you do. If you have the most optimized morning routine, if you don't have the basics down, nothing else matters, right? Try and build a house without a good foundation. It may look pretty from the outside, but it's not going to last. And that's what gets me fired up. That's what frustrates me, is that I see so many dads who are struggling who don't have to be. I get on so many calls with dads who've been struggling for years, and they're afraid to try something different. They're afraid to actually commit and invest in themselves, because they don't have the confidence that they can stick with it, because they failed so many times before. But they haven't failed so many times before. What they've done wasn't for them. It wasn't for anybody. If it has an end date, if your program has an end date, there's a good chance it's setting you up for failure because your health doesn't have an end date. The day you stop working on your health, the day you stop trying to improve is the day you die, right? And your kids are young. For us dads, if you have young kids like I do, 2 years can be their entire life. It could be half their life. It could be a third of their life. That's a big chunk of their life. They're in your house for 18 years. Don't wait another 2 years. Don't wait another 3 years to figure out, how to have more energy, how to be able to run around with them more, be able to do more, to be present. I don't want you just to sit on the couch and be with them. I want you to be present. I want you to be active. I want you to actually spend time with them because they'll remember that. They want to be with you, and I know you want to be with them too. But it starts with your health. It starts with doing the things you need to do, and it may be hard at first. Maybe your parents were overweight. Maybe your parents didn't take care of their health. Maybe they didn't have the best eating habits. That's okay. That's okay. That's not your fault. But now it's your responsibility to make it better for your own kids. What happened while you grew up? Not your fault. You may have had, parents who, didn't care about health. They're constantly, they're taking medication. They're hospital visits constantly. That's not your fault. And chances are, that wasn't theirs either. Maybe they had, maybe they didn't have the best. They didn't know, right? I'm not blaming anybody. You don't need to blame anybody either. But now it's your responsibility. You've got kids. You got to create the best life you can for them. And I guarantee you that doesn't mean a dad who doesn't prioritize his health. Going for a walk is the easiest thing you can do. It's free. You can wake up in the morning, go for a 15-minute walk, do it over lunch, do it in the evening after they go to sleep. Trade off times with your wife to get your workouts in. But you got to take care of your health. All you got to do is do it today. And then do a little tomorrow. And make sure you have a really great week. And then we stack that to next week. And then that leads to a month. But it starts with today. You got to make today great. Maybe it's dinner time and you're listening to this right now. Breakfast didn't go so well. Dinner or lunch didn't go so well. Now it's dinner time. And you're like, I'll just start tomorrow. No, start right now. Start right now. The longer you wait, the harder it gets. You don't have to. Maybe you ate too much today. You had somebody brought cookies into work. You felt like you had too many, but you can still go for a walk tonight. You can still get a 10-minute workout in tonight. It all counts, and it all starts to build that habit. But you have to start, and the longer you wait, the harder it gets. I don't want you to wait any longer because we don't get this time back. Our kids are only in our house for so long, and I want to make sure, I do what I can to prepare them, and I want to be with them. I want to be with them as much as I can, and I know you do too. So you got to take care of yourself. And that starts with today. And then tomorrow, we're going to do a little bit more, but we don't worry about tomorrow right now. We focus on today, and then tonight, what you can do is just plan tomorrow. That's all you got to do. Make today great, and then plan tomorrow. And then do that tomorrow, right? You do the same thing. We just focus. Just start simple. Focus on what you can control right now and make the best of it. And then we stack that, and we get the ball rolling here. We build momentum here, and everything starts to compound. But it also works the other way too. If we have a really bad day, and we let that turn into tomorrow, and then all of a sudden we have a really bad week, and then it turns into a bad month, and now it's a bad year. And all of a sudden things just spiral out of control. But it didn't just happen. It compounded over time. And so we can either use momentum for us or against us, right? But whatever you do, it's going to work. And so make today great, and then make tomorrow great too, and just keep stacking that.
That concludes this episode of the Fatherhood Fitness Podcast. Thank you for those of you who took time out of your busy schedules to listen. If you have any questions or comments or an idea for a topic for a future episode, please feel free to reach out, and I'd love to hear from you.